The debate around where the next governor should come from has always been an integral part of politics in Edo State. However, ahead of next year's governorship election, this debate sounds particularly strong this time around. So what could be behind the situation, and how just can this political heads team define the pathway for the emergence of the next state's chief executive? Well, for answers, we're now being joined by Andrew Emwanta, a lawyer and former Edo State Commissioner for Information. Good to have you on Newsday. Well,
thank you, Temitokbe. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Viewers at home.
So what's your stance on the zoning debate currently ongoing in Edo State? Should zoning be an issue, or should we be talking of competence and capability?
Yeah, thank you. In addressing that question, I think it's important for Nigerians to appreciate one fact, that zoning is not a constitutional matter, but if you ask me, it's one that tilts towards the issue of equity. And as we say in law, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. That brings us to the two parameters or two variables you mentioned of competence and capability, but I'll prefer to use the three C's of capacity, competence, and character. And not just character, but good character. And from the present situation in Edo, it appears the Edo Central Senatorial District have been very vocal in saying that it is their turn. But if you ask me, it is a matter of history. Edo State, like every other state, has three senatorial districts. And if we look at it properly, this constitutional arrangement in Edo sits on a tripod, a primordial tripod of the three major ethnic groups, namely the Benins in Edo South, the Etsako people in Edo North, and the Esam people in Edo Central. And if you take a cursory look at the history of the governorship of our states from the time of Bendel, because we are looking at these three major ethnic groups that have been a constant from the time Edo was Bendel State. So that the first on the list is Professor Ambrose Ali, who was governor between 1979 and 1983. Then second on he is from Edo Central. The second on the list is Dr. Samuel Ogbomudia from Edo South, a Benin man, who was governor between October 1983 and December 1983. Then third is Dr. John Odige Oyegun, who was governor from Edo South, a Benin man, who was governor between January 1992 and November 1993. Then fourth is Chief Lucky Benedian, who was governor between 1999 and 2007. Then fifth is Senator Adams Ushomole, who was governor between 2007 and 2016. And the seventh, or by no means the least, is the present governor, who has been governor since 2016 from Edo South. So when you look at the distribution, one can say that it is on a non-proportional scale of 4-to-1. We've had 4 governors from Edo South, 2 governors from Edo Central, and only 1 from Edo North. And as such, it brings us back to this issue of, should zoning be treated as a legal question or one that is based on equity? And I think it's better for us to keep it at equity. And if any of the candidates should come to equity, they must come with clean hands, sticking to the 3 C's of competence, capacity, and good character. And as such, unlike in the past where we don't talk of the issue of pedigree, tied to this theory is the issue of pedigree. Because as it is in Edo, people are now groaning because the present leadership is such that in 2016, when this present governor came, people knew little of him. It was still this issue of, it's the turn of the Benins. So this time around, the issue of character, the issue of competence, and the issue of capacity will be the main principle. The issue of zoning, of course, will be an exception.
Well, of course, we all witnessed the conflict, between the governor and his deputy, which for now seems to have been resolved. But I'm wondering if it has had any impact on governance in Edo State. What's your take on that?
I think it has had very negative impact. And I say this with every sense of responsibility. A situation where a deputy governor is made to leave government house, was evicted from government house, all the assignments tied to his office have been stripped, Bede Insurance Football Club and sports generally, which the deputy governor used to handle. The governor stripped him of that responsibility. And even as we speak, we only have a single tier of government. We don't have the democratically elected local government system in place. We had an election whereby names were persons were unpicked. There was no election, results were written. And unfortunately, it is when we have the kind of situation that we presently have in Edo that you have that kind of situation where a governor now operates like a dictator, a situation where his deputy governor is like a houseboy. At every given point, the man is compelled to apologize. Why? Because he has an ambition. And the deputy governor comes from that senatorial district that I'm only produced a governor, just one governor. Where the present governor comes from, where I also come from, I've produced 4 governors. And as such, no particular senatorial district should be deprived. It is a constitutional right, it is a natural right, and Edo people should be allowed to decide. It is not the senatorial districts that will nominate candidates. Under the constitution, it is political parties. So what I think is the ability to negotiate, the ability to be diplomatic, the ability to understand that Edo people this time around want a governor that is homegrown, not a governor that will take all contracts to Lagos, bring contractors from outside. As I speak to you, the public service building that the governor is renovating, I mean, within the last, 7 years, over 50 billion have been spent. The only building contractor handling it, A&K, is a foreign company owned by, is it Lebanese or, some persons outside the country are the ones now doing contracts. So we have local contractors. So the local economy is suffering from serious arrested development. And as such, we will need a governor that will develop Edo State. As I speak, all the entry and exit routes into Benin City are impassable. If you are traveling from Abuja to Benin, it takes you more than 1 day. It's more than a day's journey. What naturally should be just 4 hours. Why? Because all the inner roads in Benin City, the governor has refused to fix them. He keeps arguing that, the federal government. As a governor, you have a responsibility. The security and welfare of the people, according to Section 14 of the 1999 Constitution, is the primary purpose of government. But that is not the rule in Edo State, but the exception. So we have a situation where government has failed completely, from the state to the local government level. So for us, this election is one that will decide a whole lot of things. And also there's this minority question. You have people from Akoko Edo, you have people from Owan. These are people not within the majority group. So they don't even have a voice in government. It was just recently a speaker was elected from Owan area. Apart from that, you have those from riverine communities in Ovia. These are people who don't even have access to good water. They don't have good schools. Just recently, there was this video that went viral of people sitting on the floor of a dilapidated building. It was after a public outcry that the government had to now relocate these children. And as we speak, they are not going to school. So if government has failed woefully, it therefore means that the 2024 election provides a new opportunity for Edo people to now decide who will lead them. And the 3 C's will be the determining factor of character, competence, and capacity.
Well, very quickly before I let you go, apart from zoning, what other factors do you think will determine how parties choose their candidates and that will ultimately influence how voters cast their ballot during the governorship election?
I think I mentioned the issue of pedigree. And just recently, you find that the governor made a choice. He said, for his party, his very good friend and business partner, Aswell Gildalu, the current chairman of Sterling Bank. Sterling Bank runs all the bank accounts of public institutions. When I was commissioner, Sterling Bank was the one responsible for my ministry's account. So it's all about business. So Edo people, we look out for an individual that has the capacity to bring redevelopment. Not a friend of a governor. We need somebody that will bring redevelopment to the state, somebody that understands the challenges, somebody who has lived in Benin. The person the governor is projecting comes from a local government. He does not even know the terrain of his local government, has never lived there, has never lived in Benin City, has never voted before in Edo State. And that was the problem we had in 2016. The first time the governor voted was in this election. He's a man that has never really lived with Edo people to understand the peculiarities of not just the politics, but the local economy of the state. We made that mistake in 2016 when he was, bandied as a technocrat. But look at the economy of the state. In Tatars, there's Osioma Power Plant, which is one of his PPP projects. For the past 1 month, I've operated sparsely. There was a particular week where we didn't have electricity from Osema Power Plant for 1 whole week. When I was commissioner, I was using my own small petrol generator. So you find that governance in the state is based on propaganda. Most of the things that the governor claims he has done are, white goose, I mean, it does not even make sense to say you have a state refinery.
Mr.
No local petrol station can say they have lifted petroleum products from there. So it's very sad. So what we need is good leadership. And I know Edo people will decide next year who will be their next governor. And they will not be hoodwinked by the present thing the governor is saying, that he wants to bring a candidate. Or rather, instead of zoning it to a particular senatorial district, he's zoning it to a particular individual.
Mr. Andrew Emwanta, we're completely out of time, but we do thank you sincerely for joining us on Newsday. It's been a very interesting discussion.